It is time. It's the session that we're playing with is called Focus and Concentration. It's a powerful session that I developed with the famous Brian Tracy, one of the most notable experts in entrepreneurism, business, sales, uh, motivational speaker for decades, brilliant man. And his book called Focal Point is the basis of this particular program. Now, the way I always talked about focus and concentration, I would tend to do two things. I talked about a story in an earlier Paraliminal about being able to have the enjoyment that comes with full concentration on what it is you're doing. The other demonstration is I would have someone hold a piece of paper like this, and then I would take a pen and I'd try to push the butt end of the pen through the piece of paper. And it's hard to do, and it rips the paper and makes a big mess. Then I have a person hold another piece of paper, and I take the pointy end of the pen and dink, perfect smooth little point right through it. Totally easy to do. It's almost effortless. And this comes from a concept that a teacher of mine made about meditation being focusing the mind. And when you do, a single thought becomes a power in and of itself. So like a magnifying glass, focusing the power of the sun can burn through something, or a laser can cut through metal. The same thing is true when you focus your mind and your energy on what it is you want to create. There is no obstacle that could possibly stand in your way. So at the beginning of this program, it's about determining what it is you want to focus your energy on. And you could think about in business, or you could think about it in terms of your personal life. In either case, it's essential that you deliberately choose a focal point for your life today. So if you think about the long arc of your life in any area, whether it be relationships or health or finance or career, business, whatever it may be, whatever that long arc is, think about where you want to be 3 to 5 years from now. And I remember in the early days of my work in human development, I thought, if anybody asks me again where I'm going to be in 5 years, I'm going to scream, because it seemed like that's what everybody would always ask. Well, Paul, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Well, how can I figure that out? And who could possibly imagine today 5 years ago, based on what's going on in global society? I mean, there's very few people who could imagine that. And yet, there is value in determining what it is you want to do out there, what you want to have as a result out there in the future. I had a teacher of mine say, live each day as if you were to die tomorrow. That means that you're living so fully, but work each day as if you were to live forever. And that's really the point that we're getting at, is how you direct your energy today. Is it scattered? Are there a zillion things going on? Or are you focused on your values and thinking about what is going to make the biggest difference for you? Now, in the case card or the manual on the digital of this particular paraliminal, there's some really good information. And I would encourage you to make sure that you use these little manuals that go along with the paraliminals to your maximum advantage. There is a part of each one of these that talks about best ways to use, possibilities for going beyond, and then inside secrets. And in each case, this is what I would call remediation and enrichment. So if you want to really enrich the results that you get as an adult learner, look into this about possibilities for going beyond and inside secrets. So in this, it talks about consider what areas may need adjusting for you to be satisfied with your results. Areas that we talk about: business and career, money and investments, health and fitness, family and personal life, social and community activities, personal growth and development, spiritual development, and inner peace. Now, if any of those are kind of hot spots for you that you really don't have going on for you what you would like, this is a great opportunity to really pause and do a personal inventory about where you're at. And once you rate yourself in those 7 areas, you can determine what next steps you need to take to turn things around. And the way to do that is to look at your values, your vision, your goals, your current knowledge and skills, your current habits, your daily activities, and your actions. And it really gets back to your daily activities and actions that focus and concentration is about. So what I notice for myself in my own life is if there's a hot spot in my area, an area that I wish it would be different, well, the idea is, how do I go from a wish to a want to a have? And moving it from a wish to a have is going to be because you have focused intentionally on the values, the actions, the things that are going to make the biggest difference for you. Now, I think that this paraliminal can be used anytime we have a project that we're just trying to get some traction on. That works great too. And in fact, there's a book called Traction, which is all about how do we confront those big rocks that are in front of us in order to get over the hump, get some momentum, and get moving in areas that aren't necessarily working. And yet I can see in my life, every time that I have been able to take a focused and intentional strategic approach, I'm making breakthroughs. Now, here's the other thing about strategic planning. You can strategically plan in business. You can also strategically plan in your personal life. Now, a strategic plan is only as good as your ability to execute on it. And when you're executing on it, if circumstances change, that's okay, because you have up front determined what it is that you want. The wonderful thing is the strategic plan lets you know that you are intentionally making a shift in that area. And that's building your confidence, your ability to get you where you want to go. The metaphor on focus and concentration is about a team of mountain climbers doing a first ascent in the Himalayas. Well, this was based on an experience that my son had, 3 years in the planning, 45 days in the execution. And what can you not expect? You can plan for good weather, but you can't expect weather to close off the opportunities and possibilities that are before you. Still, when you have a good plan, you have your resources in place, and you're daily executing on it, when possibilities and opportunities present themselves, you're in an optimal position to leverage your resources in the direction of where you want to go. That's that focal point, that single point pushing through the barrier that you need to get through. So you see, it really is a neat way to daily move you where you want to go. Now, there is another aspect to this. When you're thinking about focus and concentration, and you're realizing that you have a tendency to be a little more scattered than you want to be, it's important that you know that you have been able to overcome issues like this in the past. And so one of the things that I do at the end of the program is, in neurolinguistic programming, we call it a time sort. You see, many of us sort time in a way that is unique to us. For example, one of the things that I grew up with is the idea of focus on the future. Whatever's going on in your life right now, not important. The goal that you have in the future is more important. So I tend to subordinate my present and my past in favor of where I'm going. So obstacles have a tendency to not get in the way. Other people will subordinate their future for what's going on in the now and what's been in the past. And this is one of the big distinctions in the mindset between two religious faiths. The Catholic faith has a tendency to focus more on the past and the present, and the Protestant faiths have a tendency to say, it's the future. If you think about it in terms of the way in which a sanctuary is built, in the Catholic faith, there is an image of the Christ being crucified. In the Protestant faith, there is an empty cross. The empty cross is because they say, well, the resurrection is the big thing. And the Catholics say, no, that's not the resurrection that's important. It's the suffering that he went through, so we can realize whatever suffering we're dealing with is not nearly as intense as the suffering that he did for us. Anyway, not to proselytize any religious philosophy, I just want you to understand that there are mindsets and ways of sorting time that can have an influence on our ability to get to that future objective. So what I do at the end of this paraliminal is I have you, having already envisioned yourself on that summit and having accomplished your goal, come back to the now, and now imagine, what if you had used this way of thinking and behaving in the past? A year ago, if you had started, 3 years ago, if you had started, 5 years ago, if you had started, how would today be different? Had you started this 5 years ago? And how is your now imagined future look different to you if that had occurred? So what I'm doing is I'm allowing the mind to embrace time-space in a different way to enhance your access to your resourcefulness. You see, your resourcefulness is always fully available to you. That's one of the big points that paraliminal technology is all about. It's not saying, someday I'll have the resources I need to be able to do that. Or, I was once really resourceful and I could do this sort of thing. No, it's all here. It's all now. And your ability to go to a quiet place and gain access to it, to touch that resourcefulness and then bring it forward, that's what paraliminal technology is about. So, focus on your strategic objectives. Think about where you want to be. And then create a plan that's going to help you, and use your focal point today to make the progress that you need. You'll take advantage of every opportunity and possibility that presents itself, and you'll have full access to your resourcefulness with whatever you encounter. Enjoy it. It's been fun being with you, and we'll see you in the next session. Peace and blessings.